Hey everybody, it is time once again for another Rahdo Q&A, where viewers like you send questions to the email address questions@rahdo.com, and I answer them as best I can. Actually, what happens is the questions go to my monthly podcast, Rahdo Talks Through, and that podcast usually ends up going for like 3 or 4 hours, which is way too long for YouTube, obviously, but it's fine for podcast length. So what we end up doing is we take an excerpt from the full podcast every week, and we bring it here as a little Q&A show. And have a fun time. If anything I talk about today prompts questions from you, you know what to do. Send those questions to questions@rahdo.com. But here's the weird thing about this episode. I'm only answering one question, but it's a big question. What do I think of Gloomhaven 2.0? And now what does that mean? Well, maybe you don't know, but Gloomhaven, which is in my top 5 favorite games of all time, is got a huge crowdfunding campaign that's ending its run this week. You don't have much time left. And so I figured now is as good a time as any to talk about all the stuff that is available in this campaign because one of you folks asked. So I'm going to go deep on Gloomhaven 2.0, and that's a springboard for talking about what do board game developers owe their long-term fans when they revamp a game. So it's not just about Gloomhaven, it's about the 2.0ification of games in general. I'm also going to talk about the Gloomhaven RPG that they're rolling out as part of this campaign. And of course, that's not just about Gloomhaven again, but it's about, the potential overlap and potential future of traditional Dungeons & Dragons style role-playing games fused with what I love, modern designer board games, and where can these things become stronger together. So that was a lot of fun to talk about. And then I also talked about the 50 bajillion miniatures that are available for Gloomhaven now, and that was just an opportunity to talk about miniatures and what I like and what I don't like about them. And then finally, the thing I'm most excited about with this Gloomhaven campaign, the Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs micro game, turning a 2-hour Gloomhaven game into a 20-minute express game. I think that's fascinating. And I have a lot of thoughts about this one, including what I think the developer should have done to make it actually work for multiplayer, because officially it's solo only, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm super excited to share my thoughts on this. So anyway, folks, like I said, it looks like this is just all Gloomhaven today, but it's actually talking about a bunch of board game stuff with Gloomhaven as the kicking off point. And if you're only interested in 1 or 2 of those 4 things, there's links to jump around down in the show notes, so you can skip right to the various sections. But without further ado, let's get going with our one question. Okay, everybody, let's get going. We're starting out this month with Daniel. Daniel asks, thoughts on Gloomhaven 2? Well, that is a very, very good question, Daniel. I have lots of thoughts, not only just on Gloomhaven 2, or 2.0, I should say, but the entire Gloomhaven super campaign that's going right now. In fact, let me bring up the browser, and let's go to BackerKit. And I'm sure it's their top thing. Let's join the party for the Gloomhaven Grand Festival, shall we? Alrighty, and it would appear somebody is live streaming right now. It looks like Jamie Daggers is live streaming. Okay. I don't know what Jamie is doing, but that's not what we're here to do. Anyway, wow. Over 4 million now, which honestly, that's kind of got to be a bit of a disappointment, right? That's a bit of a fall from Frosthaven numbers, although I'm not quite sure about that. I don't really tend to follow such things. But anyway, right, so there is a bunch of stuff here. You asked specifically about Gloomhaven 2, so let's use the handy-dandy table of contents, which is honestly one of the best things about BackerKit, that you can jump around to any area you want on the page. And did I misclick? Okay, there we go. Yes, Gloomhaven, 2nd edition. So, I think it's great. I think that's really, really cool. And honestly, it's something that I would love somewhere down the line to be able to get my hands on, the refined experience, and go back and, because my wife and I, we finished the main storyline of Gloomhaven, which is a real rarity for us to be able to put in that much time to make it all the way through. Was a really big commitment for us, and it's tough to do when you're always covering the latest stuff on the channel, but we made the time, we're able to finish it, and a whole bunch of side quests too, it's not like we just plowed through the main storyline. I mean, I don't know, there's probably like 20 or so missions we could still do in there, not counting all the side extra stuff that's been released since then, like the solo missions and the little online poll missions that Isaac had done over the years. So anyway, we put a ton of time into Gloomhaven, and that does in no way, shape, or dampen my enthusiasm for going back and playing again. As I understand it, almost every single character has gotten anywhere from minor to major upgrades. They even changed the name of some of the characters. They've changed so much. And I mean, in spite of the fact that I just said that we played so much Gloomhaven, it's not like Jen and I are super duper hardcore experts on it. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, this character class is broken. This one's underpowered. This one's overpowered." That never really made sense to me as a complaint from people because it's a cooperative game. We're all working together. If there's somebody who is less powerful in some circumstance, the other players can make up the difference. It's not like there's ever a case where players can't all work together and contribute to the win. But still, for people who are really, really bothered by that, I think that's great. I mean, I do know, more importantly to me, there's a lot of other balance issues that were addressed. Like, as I recall, I think the stamina potions, they already got nerfed when we went into Jaws of the Lion. I believe they've been nerfed even further because they were so overpowered. Now, that's just something that makes us too powerful relative to the game. I mean, in spite of all those games Jen and I played, we almost never lost, in part because we spammed stamina potions and all that. Although, we never did we've got a major and a minor stamina potion. We didn't take it that far. But I love the fact that, because remember, this game, oh gosh, when did I play it? Like back in 2014 is when I first covered it. So, has it been a decade since the original campaign for Gloomhaven? So you better believe that ever since Gloomhaven was a super major hit and has had millions of plays, from hundreds of thousands of people playing it. Of course, over the years, they've gotten all kinds of feedback from people, and never mind the fact they put out Jaws of the Lions and Frosthaven, so they've learned a lot more ways to improve the original game. And from my understanding, this, they are right to call it a sequel. It is a 2.0, much like Glenmore got Glenmore 2. This is Gloomhaven 2. Yes, it's the same setting. It's largely the same story and cast of characters, but, you've still got effectively kind of a new story to play through because they introduced this reputation faction thing, right? That, you will now work your way through the story and who you get in good with. The merchants, the military, and the demons, they existed in the original game, but just kind of as a static thing for you to explore. Now you're manipulating the relative power balance of the factions, which I believe means they had to make a lot of changes to a lot of the missions as well so that they could, respond to the fact that players make a significant dent. They really change the world. That's really, really cool. And like I said, there's the rebalance items, i.e. Potions and plenty of other ones. New scenarios. I believe there are some additional scenarios that didn't exist before and then changed to existing ones. Rebalance monsters. There's a few new monsters as well. They use the campaign system from Frosthaven. They brought that over. That's nice. And I guess they revamped how the Envelope X thing worked. So that's all very, very cool. Changes to all the playable characters, including changing the names. To me, this makes sense. And I know I have seen some people complaining that, this ruins Gloomhaven for me. And I don't see that. I never really understand how the existence of something new can retroactively take fun away from you that you had in the past. It is kind of cool that they introduced an option for people who already own Gloomhaven to be able to buy just these new characters as a standalone thing. I don't want to invest in the entire Gloomhaven again. I think the Gloomhaven Second Edition is one of the lower cost things on this campaign. You could flip your original copy of Gloomhaven. You could probably sell that used on BoardGameGeek or eBay for $60 or $70 and then put that into a 2.0. Or you could just get the new characters and all of that. I think that goes above and beyond. They didn't need to do any of that because the existence of this does not invalidate the existence of the original. You can't take away all the fun memories Jen and I have of playing the original game. But I'm glad a new 2.0 is out, and that's going to be the standard bearer going forward. I would certainly like somewhere down the road to be able to get my hands on it. That seems like it's very far off in the future. But, color me impressed by all the work they had done to go back in and give us a 2.0, a different experience. Not the same experience with a few little tweaks here and there, but they really give you, from what I've seen, your money's worth. If you want to know more about it, specifically what's in this 2.0, go check out one of my favorite channels. Shelfside. They did because they were really involved. Is that right? Let me double check this. YouTube Shelfside Gloomhaven 2. Did they do this video? Or am I thinking of somebody? Yeah. Or no, was it them? All right, here's their Jaws of the Lion video and their big Frosthaven video and then their original Gloomhaven video, which they did after they'd covered everything. Maybe it wasn't them. I could have sworn, though, I watched them do a very, very deep dive on all the changes and the ways that this new 2.0 has evolved the game. Have they? No, I guess not. It must have been somebody else. All right. Well, my apologies. My apologies to whoever it was that did do that video that I saw. I can't remember it now. And also, folks, I highly recommend Shelfside. They're a great channel. But anyway, that's my thoughts, Daniel, on 2.0. But like I said, there's a lot more stuff. Let's talk a bit about the role-playing game. While Jamie Daggers continues to paint down there in the bottom right corner. So I think this is really cool. Here's the deal. I personally have never in my life played a tabletop pen and pencil role-playing game. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. It's weird. I had a full set of Dungeons and Dragons stuff when I was a preteen, maybe like from 12 to 14, and I devoured the stuff. I read all this stuff, and but I grew up on a boat. I had no friends to play it with, so I was very, very deeply involved in the lore, and I've made tons and tons of graph paper maps that never went anywhere. I've read through the I can't remember the names of them now, but if you showed me those old campaigns you could get, I had several of them, and I just read them like I used to read the Tolkien Bestiary at the time. But so I've always wanted to, and this to me strikes me as a really good place to start. I mean, it's the traditional, you don't have a game master, you have a gloom master who oversees things. You don't roll dice to try to say, hey, here's what I want to do in this circumstance, and instead of rolling dice based on what the gloom master says, you draw cards using the Gloomhaven modifier deck, which has been modified a little bit, so that's all nice. I have to admit, I think I'd rather roll dice than draw cards, but I'll allow it. But the important thing is that, let's see, they talk about many, many things here. The detailed cartography, the immersive lore, the expansive bestiary, the unified resource, that's all well and good. But what's interesting to me is the fact that they bring the combat from Gloomhaven into a pen and paper situation. Now, here's the deal, folks. I wanted to know more about this because I'm really, really interested. And I tried. They've put up, there must be at least a half dozen or more run-throughs. A lot of channels have done demos of this role-playing game. And I can't bring myself to watch any of them. I don't know. I have some kind of gene that just prevents me from being able to enjoy people playing or recording themselves playing Dungeons and Dragons or traditional role-playing games. It always feels very cringy to me when they try to do the voices, when they don't try to do the voices. I'm still not engaged. I understand. They're hugely popular. We should really start doing them on the Rahdo Runs Through channel because it seems like a lot of people like watching this content. And hey, Kimberly is she's not a professional dungeon master, but she does dungeon master with dungeon master sessions with the college kids she teaches because he's an English professor. So I know she's hardcore into it. Maybe that's something we should do. But I personally, the only videos I can think of. I'm sorry, folks, this is me just kind of going all over the place. But have you ever watched Harmon Quest? It was a short-lived TV show. I think it got 2 seasons. It was Dan Harmon and a bunch of his celebrity friends playing Dungeons and Dragons, and with original campaigns, and they had animated sequences to go along with what the characters were, what the players were describing they were doing. That was awesome. I loved that show so much that I actually went and started listening to the Dan Harmon podcast, Harmontown, specifically for when they'd get to the end, and occasionally they would do more episodes, and I loved those. I would have said it was because, hey, they did cartoons, and that's why I enjoyed them so much more than Critical Role or anybody else, including like all these different videos I've tried to watch of Gloomhaven RPG. But then I really loved Harmontown as well. I think a part of it was that Harmontown always did it in front of a live audience, but I think more than anything else, it's because it was composed entirely of people trying to less to play the game and more to entertain a live audience, and I found that entertaining. That's neither here nor there. It's just, no offense to Isaac and his literal, I believe some of these videos are his high school friends he used to play Dungeons and Dragons with that he got back together to play this with him. I know Penny Arcade did some videos. So anyway, long story short, while I've never played a role-playing game, I know the basics of how they work and what kind of feelings they engender. And I was able to watch enough of the videos to see how do they bring the Gloomhaven combat into a traditional role-playing game. Because that was the thing that I was actually kind of worried about, in all honesty. Because, again, mostly from my enjoyment of Harmon Quest and Harmontown, it really feels to me like the more you make combat all about, oh, here's a grid and here's where all the heroes and the villains are relative to each other and all of that, it seems like it has the potential to lose what makes a role-playing game special, where it's all about players' creativity and imagination coming together to tell a communal story. And it's not about, right, okay, what is line of sight between me and this enemy that's partially obscured by a tree? And, okay, how many grids am away? Are they in proper range? And like, I personally, if I were to ever play a game like this, I wouldn't want to have that kind of stuff weighing down, the creativity and the spontaneity of combat. Right? And I was worried that, bringing in, literally, you can, it's interesting, you can either just get the base of this, which is, a source book, or you can buy this plus just character cards, or you can buy a big super all-in-one collection of stuff too. But anyway, I was worried that alright, and here's where they talk about it. They say, role-playing in combat, though attribute checks and skills are mainly used outside of combat, they can be employed in combat to allow players to do whatever they want, even in the face of danger. Obstacles can be climbed, can be swung from, enemies can be reasoned with. These enemies are fully controlled by the GM, who decides what actions they take. See, that's why I was worried. Because as I understand it, you still have your deck of cards, just like Gloomhaven, and your cards represent your stamina, and the more you use, the more tired you get, and you really have this extra level of gameplay that, you still get, and that's the thing, they're trying to have their cake and eat it here, and I'm really intrigued by that I want a board game worth of depth and complexity, and it looks like Jamie Dagger is taking a break, or there's a commercial break in progress. Anyway, I want a board game's worth of deep, interesting, complex, tough decisions to make, but I also want to have that big, wide open, creative sandbox that the game offers as well. And so I watched a bit, I think it was one of the more recent ones with Isaac and his friends playing, and watching that combat where, look, I still play my cards, and this says what I'm going to do based on the cards they traditionally are, but in addition to what the cards say, they introduce this new thing where you play out rounds. You can declare non-card actions that you want to do in addition to the cards you play. So you can still say, well, I'm actually going to try and dig a hole over here, and because I suspect there might be, or whatever it might be, you can still have your cake and eat it too. And so I am super duper intrigued by this, mostly because like I said, I do not have a gamer group. It's just me and my wife, Jen. And traditionally, pen and paper role-playing games don't work well for two players, right? There are ones out there. I've looked into them in the past. I've posted on RPG Geek looking for suggestions for, hey, if I'm willing to be a dungeon master and I only have one player, what's a good system that would work? And I'm kind of bummed. If I had Isaac here, my big question to him would be is, how does this work as a two-player game? Because I would think that, with only two players, or with only one player and the dungeon master, you're going to lose some of the improvisational spontaneity between players, and that's a big part of what it is as players work together. But you're going to get something else. You're going to get a crunchy, challenging, compromise-laden board game style combat. And I think that basically this becomes then Gloomhaven, where effectively Jen, because I'd be the Gloom Master probably, because that has more work, I'm sure, to keep track of stuff, that, Jen would be playing a solo game, but I'd be creating a story for her, and, it wouldn't be about her just trying to tell a story to herself, and because she has no other friends to, work off of, but instead, she'd get this really deep, crunchy game that she already enjoys, that she already loves. She'd love to get her Tinkerer back out, but then be able to do anything she wants with her Tinkerer. And I suspect that this would work better as a 2-player game than the average bear. Now, folks, please let me know. If anybody does, maybe they have talked about this in some Q&A somewhere. But like I said, this would be my number one question for Isaac. Hey, with the loss of additional players, but with the addition of a crunchy, combo-ridden, combo-laden, card combo combat system, how would it work for one dungeon or Gloom Master, not Game Master, but one Gloom Master and one player? I'd really like to give this a try, folks. And I think Jen would too. So this is why I am more interested in the Gloomhaven RPG than just about any other RPG I have ever seen. So that is my thoughts on that. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, okay, there are, of course, the miniatures of Gloomhaven. I have spoken many times on my channel and I think on this podcast about how, miniatures are just not for me. I mean, look, why would I want a gray lump of plastic when I can have beautiful, colorful art instead? Because I'm never going to paint all these hundreds and hundreds of miniatures. Never mind the fact Gloomhaven is already a challenging game to set up and play. The fact that, all the monsters are represented by standees at least helps streamline that some. Trying to find the 10 giant vipers I need, plus the human bandits in this particular game we're going to play, it's going to be much easier just pulling them out of a baggie rather than trying to find them through a bunch of trays of a million different miniatures. So, to me, I don't see the point of it. I guess it makes more sense for the RPG, which I think is kind of why they're here in the first place. Yes, you can use them in Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion and Frosthaven. But really, we made these mostly for the role-playing gamers. But again, that's why I'm attracted to the game. But still, look at these. The art is better than the miniatures, no matter how good the miniatures are. Now, if the miniatures came pre-painted, or maybe it was that thing, that sun drop style, I don't think there's an option for that, though. So I would still rather play with standees. Make mine standees every day of the week. So the miniatures are of zero interest. But I will take this opportunity yet again. Maybe it's not too late for Gloomhaven 2. Isaac and company, please consider doing backs of your standees. So we've got art from still to this day, nobody has done it better than Legends of Andor, and Legends of Andor came out over a decade ago. Why have we still not made that the standard blueprint for any miniature-based game? I've seen a few, more and more, like the recent, the X-Men worker placement game. They had standees where you saw the front and the back of the character painted differently. Why hasn't that been done in Gloomhaven? Is it going to be done in Gloomhaven too? Probably not. But anyway, that's all I have to say about the miniatures, which are another major leg of this. But what else is there? Frosthaven. Hey, you've already got Frosthaven. I do think it's very, very cool for people, who have Frosthaven and who love it and maybe haven't gotten too terribly far into it. Oh, all the Frosthaven stuff, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Because they haven't made that big a deal about it. I'm surprised how many people do not know. And yeah, I'm not surprised because I've just scrolled all the way through the entire Frosthaven section where they spent a lot of time talking about... wait a minute, am I still in the miniatures? Frosthaven. Alrighty. Here's the deal. Yeah, if you go to the Frosthaven section of this, and then you just go down, they don't say it. Oh, okay, it's going to be down here in add-ons, isn't it? Yeah, here we go. It's going to be in add-ons. And that's kind of a shame. They should make a bigger deal higher up that, hey, you can get Frosthaven and the Frosthaven Solace Area and renewable stickers and blah, 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 whatever. The important thing is, where is it? Is it not here? You can get the book, not the removal stickers, not the play surface books, right. The idea that was introduced in Jaws of the Lion where instead of when you're setting up the game trying to get out tile 1C3, 1C4, and 3F2, and trying to find all of those and then snap them all together and then have these other tiles at the ready for later, it's fine. I don't mind. Like I said, we played through Gloomhaven all the way from start to finish. I got it down to a science. As long as you keep those things, you can get these... I think I just saw one, wasn't there? You can get these kind of accordion holders that hold all the stuff, the map tile archives, but you don't need it. You just need to keep your stack of tiles in alphabetical order so they're easy to find. But there is no denying that the play surface books that were introduced in Jaws of the Lion are fantastic. So I think that's very, very cool that they are available here. I know some people are complaining that $50, it's like, you don't need it. It's optional. If that's too much for you, just stick with what's already there. It's kind of where I come from. But it is nice that it is there as an option. But I have seen some people complain that, no, this is a requirement. You can't play this game without the play surface books. And I'm like, yeah, I would beg to differ. I've put hundreds of hours into Gloomhaven, and never mind the fact that those individual maps, they do have some advantages, like being able to do randomly generated dungeons and stuff like that. So I think that's cool, but I think that's really the most important thing to say about Frosthaven is if you already have Frosthaven, you can get, and you're willing to pay a bit more, you can reduce the time of setup by probably 45 seconds every time you play, because you can use these play surface books instead of the tiles, provided you keep your tiles in alphabetical order. So is that worth $50 to save 45 seconds times 200 if you're going to play 200 sessions? Maybe. But anyway, the most important thing, folks, is the thing they've only recently announced, buttons and bugs. And this is the reason this campaign should exist, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, miniatures are nice. Yes, an upgraded 2.0 for Gloomhaven is great. Or if you just want the new characters, you can get them as standalone. All that's fine. But all of that pales in comparison to Buttons and Bugs, which has a really wonderful story. There was a fan-made solo micro game called Gloomhaven, where you held all of Gloomhaven in your hand because it was 18 cards. And Isaac and the gang liked it so much they contacted the designer, who I want to say his name was Joe, if I recall correctly. I'm sure it says somewhere in here. But teamed in, Joe Clipful. Congratulations, Joe, on your award-winning Gloomhaven. So they contacted Joe and said, hey, we want to blow this up. We want to make this more than an 18-card micro game. So they brought in Nikki Valens, who is a very accomplished adventure game designer. I mean, look at their pedigree. I mean, Nikki is top tier. So Nikki and Joe worked together to expand this game and turn it into a very epic, a big box full of content. And this game, Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs, which I don't know why they didn't call it Bugs and Buttons. They should always do things in alphabetical order. It sounds better to me as Bugs and Buttons, but Buttons and Bugs, regardless, you can play Gloomhaven anywhere. It's a tiny footprint. It's a tiny box. It's a tiny playtime. You can play a full epic combat session that feels like you're getting the Gloomhaven experience in about 20 minutes. And they have demonstrated this over and over with their digital playthroughs because they have it on Tabletop Simulator. And I really like the core conceit of how they do this, that each player has a hand of only 4 cards, which is nothing. But so you've got your 4 starting cards for whatever character you're playing, and there's 6 different characters, right? And each character has their 4 cards, but they're all 2-sided. Once you choose to do an action, with the top and bottom, you flip that card over. So really, the 4 cards are 8 cards, and as you do certain actions, that opens up different actions you can do later. That is super duper cool. I really like that idea a lot. It's very, very similar to the Snowdoden duel game. What was it called? Foothills. This idea that, you've only got a few cards, but every time you use them, you flip them over, and now you have this thing that's on the other side. And so I loved that in Foothills. I think I would love it here. I would very much like to try it. And, the way that they just basically simplify and streamline the game down with a few tokens, 1 specialty die, and, some modifier cards and whatnot that you can get. I forget. I mean, there are tons of adventures you can do in this game. And I mean, they came up with a new campaign you can play through and all that, or you can just do, just little one-off 20-minute scenarios. I think all that's great. And now, there is one thing that I think I think it's reasonable that people are disappointed, is that this is a solo-only game. And there's a lot of people out there that love Gloomhaven, would love a 20-minute Gloomhaven, but they don't want to play by themselves. They want to share this with their friends and family. And here's the deal, folks. There are, I think, 2 huge mistakes that Isaac and company have made with this campaign. Or at least as it relates to bugs and buttons, or buttons and bugs. One, Isaac, get me on the phone! Sorry, this is just me being self-serving. I would so love to have done a run-through for this. It's actually interesting. When I found out about this, we contacted them and said, hey, we would do, if we'd love to have you do a digital run-through on Tabletop Simulator. And I said, no, I have zero interest in doing that. I've tried watching Nikki on a few different videos doing demos in Tabletop Simulator, and to me, they're just unwatchable with the camera panning all over the place, and it doesn't capture the real feel of physical components. I've asked the backers of my show many times, do you want to see me doing Tabletop Simulator, Board Game Arena videos, or Tabletopia? And it over and over and over again, they say no. They say, we'd rather wait a year until you have the physical game in your hand rather than watch a digital version. So I said, no, I'm not really interested in that. But what I did say is, hey gang, just send me bitmaps. I will print out the cards for a character, one map. I'll print all this stuff out and I'll play a physical version of the game. I'll even put stickers on a die to replicate. And they're like, no, there's no time for that, because they announced this very, very late. Maybe if I'd known about this a couple of months ago, we could have worked something out so that I could have given you folks, you and me, because I want to play this as much as anybody, a physical object run through of it. That's what I want to see. Because and again, don't get me wrong, they're doing fine. They're doing just fine without a run through for me. But it's certainly something that I look forward to doing in the future, is when I do get a physical copy of this. Because, oh yes, I will get a physical copy of this thing. It's only like $15 if I recall correctly. And I will do a run through somewhere down the road. So I'm excited about it. Anyway, so that's a minor mistake. There's that, hey, you could have had even more people excited if they could have seen a physical run through that I was offering to do. I would burn all of my printer ink to have printed out the pieces to do it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm sure I'll cover it down the road. But the more important thing is, back to what I was saying earlier, for people who are upset that this is solo only, it's not. I have watched enough of Nikki and Joe doing videos. And Isaac. I've watched just enough to see how it works, to get a basic idea. And here's the deal, folks. This is a bingo game. And bingo games can implicitly be played by one player or 1,000 players. That is the nature of bingo. They are 100% expandable. All you need is more copies of the game. So here's the deal. If you and your loved one love Gloomhaven and you are so sad that you cannot play this with them because it's solo only, all you gotta do is buy 2 copies. That's gonna cost you $30, I believe, at 15, plus shipping and all of that. And one for me, one for you. And here's what we're gonna do. Because it's a bingo game, we're gonna set up, we're both gonna play through the same dungeon. And there's a few different ways this could work, I think, but I think they would all work based on what I've seen of the game. Let's actually get a copy of but again, all I can put on the screen is just those digital playthroughs. Oh, I hate those digital playthroughs. If I ever start doing them regularly on the channel, folks, you'll know. I don't know what you'll know. Well, actually, where are the videos? Apparently they don't even like them enough anyway. There aren't enough of them here. But anyway, I'll just keep that on screen. Since this is a podcast anyway, this is this is available in video form too. But anyway, so here's the deal. You and I both set up. We both have the same dungeon. We both have the same monsters. And if you wanted to play, if you've ever wanted to play Gloomhaven competitively, because originally Gloomhaven, before the original one came out, I remember talking to Isaac. He was working on rules so you could have Gloomhaven gladiatorial battles between players. That got dropped, so Gloomhaven has never been competitive, but it is now. Because you and I both set up the exact same scenario, the same playable character, because we have all the resources, because we have 2 copies of the games, and then we start playing. And we both have access to the same cards, but we will do different stuff. That is the nature of a bingo-style game. As soon as I do something different than you, we both we select and declare at the same time what we're doing, and then we both try to beat the scenario. And whoever does a better job wins. And you could play this as a 2 or a 20 or a 200-person competitive game of Gloomhaven. You just have to have more copies of the game. And I think that would be a lot of fun. But what I think would be even more fun is you and I both have a copy. We both set up the same scenario, so the monsters are going to respond the same, based on the die rolls and the checks and all of that. But we have different characters. And this means you and I are playing this cooperatively now, because we have a new rule. All players playing simultaneously their own copy with a different playable character but the same scenario, we all have to win. If we don't all win, then nobody wins. Now, to be fair, this just means I'm playing the game next to you, you're playing the game next to me. But here's the deal, folks. Board gaming, more than anything else, is about sharing the experience around the table with somebody. You don't have to be reaching across the table and stealing things from me, or reaching across the table and giving me things for us to share that experience. In the same way, you and I can go to the movies and enjoy a movie together, even if we're not somehow both interacting at the same time because it's a choose-your-own-adventure movie or something. I mean, what is that? For decades, people have found that to be a meaningful social exercise, to go out and share the movie-going experience. You can share the Gloomhaven Button and Bugs experience with your loved ones, with everybody playing, everybody having a great time. When the die rolls, and that means, it's going to be +1 on the monster chart check, right? Because basically you can kind of see what the monsters are going to do, but then you roll a die and, oh no, they did the one that's above the line, or they did the one that's below the line. Whatever they're going to do. It's like some people are like, yes, oh, that's perfect, that's exactly what I was hoping. And others say, no, oh, they just did the one thing I didn't want them to do. And that's still going to be a shared communal experience. And there's no direct interactivity between players, but because we can't consider it a win and move forward in the campaign unless everybody wins, then we do still have a vested interest in what everybody else is doing. But more to the point, we're just sharing a fun time. And for the competitive thing, you know what's been around forever since the dawn of sport? Foot races. How interactive are foot races? They're not, and yet they're still one of the oldest forms of competitive sports we have. So I think playing this as a competitive game where you and I both play the same character, but as we make different moves, we find, oh, well, my strategy ended up working better than yours. There is nothing stopping Buttons and Bugs, at least based on what I know of the game, from being a multiplayer game. If you're willing to play it in the style of bingo where, hey, every round that die gets rolled, everybody responds to that die roll at the same time, but it treats everybody differently. I have played so many bingo board games over the years, ever since Rise of Augustus, I think, was the first modern board game bingo game, and there's been so many since then, and they do such an amazing job. It's such a common conceit in roll and rights, and it would work here beautifully. And so when I say Isaac and company made a mistake, to me, if they'd done a little bit more work, I bet you anything, they could have taken it beyond what I just suggested. That, hey, if multiple people have copies of the games, here are ways that players can actually share resources. Or, hey, if I beat a monster, that makes a monster on your board have one extra hit point. Like something like that. That if you and I are playing competitively and I beat the ooze, and on your board the ooze is still alive, that ooze on your board gets +1 hit point, because it's like, it'd be a way that you can have like a little bit of screwage because we're racing to beat the individuals. And by the same token, if we were playing cooperatively, and if I take out that ooze on your board, that ooze drops by 1 hit point as well. Kind of communally, like a multiverse version of the game. I could see that working wonderfully, and it could even lead into strategies where, wait, no, don't kill that ooze, because if you wait until I do 1 more point of damage to it, then when you kill your ooze, you'll kill mine at the same time. You could then get into, literally folks, I am making this up on the fly right now. It hadn't even occurred to me before, because I was just happy the idea of playing bingo where there was no direct overlap, but with just the tiniest bit of work, Isaac and company could have made interesting ways that players could be playing on the same table, the same basic setup, but with different outcomes, and it would be amazing. So, again, don't get me wrong. Isaac and company are doing just fine. This has been a monster hit. Maybe not as big as they expected, but still a monster hit. But I'm just saying, folks, this could be so much more. And, if Cephalofair isn't going to do it, I hope somewhere down the road when people start getting their hands on this game, you better believe there are going to be folks on Board Game Geek coming up with homebrew variants so that they can share the Buttons and Bugs experience with their loved ones. You better believe I'm going to be doing it for real, because I want to play a 20-minute on-the-go game of Gloomhaven that I can share with my wife anytime I want. I want that so bad, and I believe they've given us the tools. We'll just have to take it across the finish line ourselves. And I think that's about it, right? That is pretty much all there is to say. Oh, and Jamie is still painting. Look at her. Is it? Yeah. Look at Jamie go. Jamie is doing a fantastic job, I suppose. But anyway, folks, that's my thoughts on what the Gloomhaven Festival offers, and more importantly, what I think it could offer. Main takeaways: is it true, Isaac? Or anybody from Cephalofair, in case you're watching this somewhere down the road, if you could let me know, do you think this would be better for 2 players as an RPG than others because you've added a whole board game's worth of content that 2 players could enjoy, the Gloom Master and the player? And also, what will this game work as a bingo game? Buttons and Bugs. I believe it will, and I am very, very excited to find out. As far as I'm concerned, folks, it is worth the $15 gamble to invest and find out. I'm definitely going to be doing that. And Daniel, that, to circle back around, was my thoughts on Gloomhaven 2.0. Phew, and that's just question number 1. And that will be the end of this session of the Rahdo Q&A. Thank you, folks, for watching and also for submitting your questions. Send me more to the email address questions@rahdo.com, and I'll get you covered in a future episode. And in the meantime, if you would like to hear some more, you're in luck. I have been doing the Rahdo Talks Through audio podcast for years now with my wife, Jen, and we have got hundreds of hours for you to enjoy. You can hit that big box that's on screen right now if you want to dive deep. Also, you can go on ahead and subscribe so you won't miss the next Rahdo Q&A. And thank you, folks, for watching, for listening. Have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.